The past few days we have been listening to our friends south of the border and the anticipated appointment of a certain individual to the highest position in the States on the Judicial Committee. We've also had an individual come forth and question whether or not this person should be in that position, bearing herself to the possibility of ridicule and deception and all kinds of things, including death threats. And then there's another hand in play, and that is between parties for or against. And we only have to turn back the Bible to that passage I read, where Jesus confronts the Pharisees and the Sadducees who are playing the game their way, utilizing their authority and overwhelming the individual person sitting in the synagogue. You see, there's a parallel there. How many times have you said, oh yes, this particular politician would be good because they have some good ideas and those ideas can make life a little easier for the folk. But when that person joins a particular party, that they are immediately constrained by the rules and the regulations of the party, and you vote with the party. If you don't vote with the party, you are doomed. And we find the same thing south of the border, even worse than our situation up here, where one side is blaming the other for the situation that is before the American public today. How many of you did watch the episode between Ford and Kavanaugh? Yeah. It was engrossing, to say the least. But at the same time, we could see where the chair of the committee was going with his comments, and in essence, a little bit of filibustering too. He knew which side he was on and what he anticipated was going to happen. But I think the last 5 minutes in that elevator with that young woman confronting the senator with her friend head on did more in 5 minutes than they had done all day with the filibustering and all the comments that were made. Surely this business of calling for an FBI investigation was the only true way to do it. It would clear Kavanaugh or condemn him. There would be none of this he said, she said, which was, of course, what they were doing. Good Lord, can you remember 36 years ago what you did? In all honesty, I couldn't. And then maybe we didn't do anything that was so bad after all. But at the same time, we find that there are rules and regulations which have to be obeyed. And one of the things that Jesus was confronted with when he was talking to the Pharisees again, and they said, well, should you not give obedience and tithing to the government? And he said, yeah, show me a coin. And he said, well, whose inscription is on this coin? He says, well, Caesar's. He says, okay, you give to Caesar what is Caesar's, but you also give to God what is God's. And this particular comment got them very upset because they figured that he was going to say something radically different. As Jesus looks at you and me, he sees within us the image of his Father. We are in the image of God. For in the beginning God created and embossed his image upon each one of us. In the waters of baptism, he marked us with the cross of Christ forever. God has further promised to love you and I forever, because our Lord God has given himself to each and every one of us. Mrs. Detweiler was created in the image of God, and she worked at Murray Elementary School as a special education teacher. It didn't take her students long to recognize that this particular person was different. The image of God was within her, and she made them feel special and loved. Even though she was a special education teacher, those students considered it a privilege to be invited to her room. And the walls of her classroom were covered with yellow stars and orange pumpkins. The stars made out of brightly yellow construction paper, neatly written in black permanent marker, and the star at the top of each row was the name of one of her students. And as soon as a student finished reading a book, the title of that book was placed on another star that soon appeared directly beneath the star bearing the student's name. The more books a person read, the more stars accumulated under that name. What was the tune anyway? Those students felt like stars themselves. Her ability to make them feel special and worth something. She loved her students because she saw in them the image of God. She gave of herself by teaching them to read with the image of God. And she believed in her students in the image of God. It was not just a question of, I've got a job, 9 to 5, this kind of thing. And sometimes we take issue with individuals, I would say, have call to ministry, as opposed to those who use it as a vocation. If it's a vocation, it's a 9 to 5 job. If it's a call to ministry, it's 24/7. And many's a time, I've told you, we've had to rearrange our schedule as husband and wife because there was an emergency on the charge, and there was a need to stay and deal with a particular issue before you took holidays. So you rearranged your holidays to suit the situation rather than to suit yourselves. Now, when a minister goes on holiday, he has somebody step in and take over in case there's an emergency, which is not the same, quite frankly. And this is the way things seem to be today. And so there's a question right there between the authenticity of a call versus a job. But Mrs. Detweiler would be the first to admit that she has faults. Times when she lets her students down, times when she loses her patience, times when her own mood affected her ability to respond to her students enthusiastically. It's impossible to be riding high on the crest of a wave all the time. We fall into the trough of that same wave at times. We get tired. We get irritable. We put off tomorrow what we should be doing today. And we need to be inspired. We need to be brought up, but you have, in order to do this, find time when there's nothing happening to rest and to relax and to build up your strength. One day at a time. When they did away with Sunday as being a day of rest, this was the beginning of the problem. Oh, I can see the necessity for nurses and doctors to be on duty on Sundays, but they should have another day off completely for themselves, because there'll be others taking over. We don't need to go to the store on a Sunday most of the time. We have routines, and we know, okay, Friday, Thursday when the flyers come out, Friday is the time to go and see when you get in any of the deals. It doesn't have to be Sunday on the way home from whatever you were involved with. Sunday was a day of rest, and those people didn't like it at times. For the majority, it was a day of rest, so that when you faced Monday morning, you faced it with a sense of zeal and enthusiasm. Well, they started having hockey practice on a Sunday, and that was the beginning. And then the stores began opening on a Sunday. And so Sunday is no different from any other day in the week. But there are still some who find the necessity to come to the house of the Lord and to pray and to sing and to hopefully leave inspired to face the challenges of the brand new week. Mrs. Detweiler, she emphasized the power of God, the love of God, in those little minds that she had the opportunity to shape and to form, to educate, to inspire. Who knows, in that class of hers, there may have been somebody that turned out to be the president of the country, or a lawyer that could be trusted, or a teacher that inherited her zeal for teaching and enthusiasm that would inspire the children. Each child could be anything that they wanted to be. Remember last week, the little boy who went to bed and had a strange dream? He dreamt that the teacher came to him, the banker came to him, the town drunk came to him, the gossiping liar came to him, the plumber came to him, the electrician came to him. All of these people came because one day he would become one of them. Teacher teaches for a certain number of years and then retires. But another teacher comes along, a younger person comes along to fill that spot and continue to teach the children that are coming up. And each child has the opportunity to choose. Christ said, "Will render to Caesar that which is Caesar, but give to God that which is God's." None of us is perfect. Don't we know it? Well, some consider themselves more perfect than others. But I think she's afraid of it going dingle-dingle again. None of us is perfect, we don't know it. But we are God's children of baptism, renewed each day with the gift of forgiveness, because that special teacher belonged to God by giving of herself to her students. Jesus worked through her, imparting his love, acceptance, and encouragement to these same students as they grew matured, and hopefully into the people that God created them to be. Therefore, render to Caesar what is Caesar, to God what is God's. We're drawing close to the season of Thanksgiving, and Linus will tell the world that the great pumpkin will soon appear, and he will appear only in the humblest and most sincere pumpkin patch. We wanted to watch the cartoon on television to clearly separate fiction from fact and acknowledge the absurdity of Linus's quest. But we must feel sorry for Linus, knowing how hard it is to be a prophet in a skeptical world. And the job of a prophet is a thankless task, as he must also stand apart from the very world that they are hoping to.
The bonding.
You okay?
Carry on.
Yeah.
Apparently my husband needs to get in the church or something. Anyway, I've got to give him the keys. Carry on.
Oh.
I don't know why.
Okay, I'll carry on.